You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. And man, today we have another amazing guest on the show. Man, we are going to talk to Dr. Annie White. She is an amazing person doing amazing things. Go to her website. Just take a mental note right now is DrAnnieWhite.com. Man, she has a lot of great things. She has a book that we will kind of splash throughout the show today, The Calm Code. And first and foremost, it's a happy day. You're all about happiness, Dr. Annie White. First and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on your fantastic show.
Man, I appreciate you taking time in your schedule. And I don't say that lightly. Yeah, I know you're busy. So I've been watching you and you're on many platforms and you're an author, but you're so much more than that. Kind of take us as far as the audience back and what inspired you to do what you do today? What path did you take for you to be able to have your platform that you have today?
Yeah, well, I was seeing patients in my office and so much of their health issues, so much were rooted in stress. And it occurred to me, if I don't figure out how to lower these high stress and anxiety levels, nobody is ever going to be truly happy or healthy. And Shamaya, there is a new study that was done by the American Psychological Association that says 77% of America has stress levels so high now that it's damaging their physical health. And a lot of people don't realize that. So I wanted to put together a system to help people to lower stress, lower anxiety for the long term, and to get to the root cause of it, because it's not traffic jams, it's not kids or partners being naughty or friends getting on your nerves. It's all about your brain and how your brain is trained and wired.
And speaking of that, I mean, it goes right to the book that you have out is The Calm Code, Transform Your Mind, Change Your Life. This is a method, like you kind of teased earlier, that you are illustrating in this book for people to kind of unlearn some things and to learn about some new things that they may have not been aware of. Can you explain to the audience some of the things that you cover in the book and how important is it for them to come to it with a new mindset and open mindset? Like, okay, let me not do what I've been doing. Let me check this out and see how I can apply it in my life.
That's a great question. And I love how you phrased it, because it is something different. And it's based on the science of neuroplasticity. And don't worry, I'm not going to get all sciencey and boring in this interview, but that science states that every thought, action, and emotion trains your mind, trains those pathways and strengthen them in your mind. So after a period of high stress, like a pandemic, people come out of that and they have inadvertently trained their minds to be more stressed, more anxious, and even depressed. And there have been studies done about the pandemic that the stress of the pandemic not only made stress and anxiety so much worse, it caused it. And that's because every thought you think makes a difference. So if inadvertently being stressed, and of course, I'm not saying that any of us shouldn't have been stressed during that pandemic, because that was extremely stressful. Mm-hmm. But you come out after it and smaller things set off your stress response, or you're feeling more anxious than you ever did, or you're having more negative thoughts than you ever had before. And a lot of people don't know that they can change that's possible. And it took me a decade of research to realize that and to put something together that could actually train the mind to be calm and happy instead.
And like you're saying, they have to retrain, like rewire their mind, and that takes practice, but also takes a good source of knowledge to follow. And so in your book, you're not just telling people, drink some water or, go to bed at a certain time. You're giving them very specific details. And how important is it for people to understand that this is not just a typical book to fluff something around of what you can try, but it's actually pinpoint details that they can practice daily.
I love that you mentioned that, because so many stress books these days, even if it's like pinpointing why you're having those stress responses, they tell you to do the things that you were mentioning. They tell you to eat healthy. They tell you to get better sleep or to go and exercise. The problem is, when you're truly stressed out, your stress causes you to crave yummy foods. You don't feel like eating healthy foods, or it causes you to be exhausted, so you don't feel like exercising. It causes insomnia, so you can't sleep. So then you can't follow this advice, and it makes you feel even worse about yourself, which stresses you out even more. So what I did was I give exactly what you're talking about, a very detailed step-by-step method. You start with 3 minutes twice a day. You work up to 8 minutes twice a day. And I give new tools every week that you use to strengthen those calm and happy parts of your mind.
Once again, talking to Dr. Annie White and her book, The Calm Code, Transform Your Mind, Change Your Life. And transform your mind. That's action. There's nothing passive about it. When something is changed, it's change on purpose. It's not just an accident change. It's a decision. So when people are reading your book, they should be able to see a change in their life as far as how they think and how they are seeing things. When you write this book and you're helping people to ignite that calm code, if you will, how important is for them to understand the commitment that will also determine their results?
That's a very great insight. And I love Ignite the Calm Code. I'm going to use that. But it's extremely important. It's just like exercise, or it's like any natural method. You have to be consistent with it in order to see results. It's just like if you wanted to get into good physical condition, you wouldn't read a book about getting into great physical condition and then it would just magically occur. I mean, we all wish that would happen, but that's just not how nature works. So you would have to follow what the book said to do in order to get the results that you want. And this is the exact same thing. I always tell my patients, nature takes its time and it's a process. Just like you can't plant tomatoes and eat those tomatoes that night for dinner. It takes some time to grow. It takes it time to develop. And consistency is key. If you didn't give those tomatoes any water, they wouldn't grow, or sunshine. Yeah. So that's a great point. And I love that you brought that up. But it's only 3 minutes twice a day at first, which makes it really easy to form a habit. And it feels good when you're doing it because you're building those relaxed and happy and positive parts of your brain.
You also have a technique for breathing. And a lot of that has been, floating around, people talk about that breathing technique. But what specifically do you uncover for the reader and for just people in general, this breathing technique? How does it work and how does it help our nervous system?
It's 3 steps. And can we just do it right now together?
Sure.
Yeah, let's show everybody how to do it. Okay. So first, I want you to take your left hand. I want you to put it on your chest. And as you're breathing in and out, say to yourself throughout the whole time that you're doing this breathing process, I am safe. I am not in a life or death situation right now. I am safe. I'm not in a life or death situation right now, because your mind, it won't fight against that. That's truth. And if you're not in a life or death situation, you're not going to be sitting there doing this breathing technique, right? So
true, you could be running or something. Yeah,
that's exactly right. There's a bear coming and you're just not going to sit down and do this. So It's for all of those other times. And it's great to use in a time of stress because it actually is going to activate your calm nervous system. And we'll get there in a second. So your second step is to put your left hand on your lower belly. And as you breathe in, feel that lower belly extend toward the opposite wall. If you're lying down, it extends out toward the ceiling. That way, you know you're breathing down deeply and you're very strongly telling your body, I don't need to run right now. So you're telling your mind, I'm safe. I'm not in a life or death situation. And you're telling your body the same thing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, the best way to talk to the body is through the body. So we're going to use that here. And then step 3 is you take your right index finger and you cover your right nostril. You breathe in and out only through your left nostril. Studies have shown that activates your calm nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, and it calms you down faster. So if you can do this breathing technique when you start feeling your breaths becoming shorter, quicker, more shallow, and closer together, you are circumventing that stress response every single time you do.
Yeah. I mean, as you're talking, I'm just practicing. Yeah, I can feel a difference already. But when someone thinks about, you know, outside of this practice and exercise, we may think we know what stress does to our bodies, but what is a professional way for us to understand the risk of stress and how that can impact our body?
Good question. When you start feeling this stress response come on, so that this is one way to detect it, because a lot of people don't know when they're feeling stressed. And so you start feeling tight, your breaths become shorter, quicker, and closer together. And that is when the damage starts. And a lot of people don't know that. And if it's ongoing, it causes heart conditions, it causes autoimmune issues, it causes inflammation issues. It can cause chronic pain. And it's a player in all of these things. And what I saw in my office is that when people would have these high stress levels, all of these things would get worse. And when their stress came down, all of these symptoms would get better. Gastrointestinal is another one. Skin issues like psoriasis and eczema, and so many different things are intertwined with stress and made worse by it.
And when people visit your website, drannywhite.com, you also kind of break down the calm code, if you will, and you list some of the benefits that will allow the person, the individual who practice the calm code, that they'll be able to experience, like cutting out outbursts. I mean, who doesn't do it? Everyone getting traffic. It's so easy to have an outburst when someone cuts you off. It can be, at work, it can be at home, it can be anything that kind of triggers you to kind of react versus pause and think. How important, I wouldn't say how important, but what some of the practices people can use to not react so fast to something negative, but instead kind of pause and be like, it's not that big of a deal?
Well, I think it depends. It depends on how your mind is wired when that happens. So from personal experience, I got to a point where my mind was so trained to be so stressed and so anxious that I wasn't controlling those outbursts anymore. I didn't have that second because my mind was so wired towards stress and negativity. I would throw a negative interpretation on any situation that I could because my mind was structured that way, because the mind always will follow the path of least resistance. So when I started using the exercises to build my mind to be more relaxed, more happy, then I had a fighting chance in those moments to make that decision. So the reason that I say this is I don't want people to feel too badly about themselves if they can't control it, because it's a real thing. And which is why I say one of the big benefits of doing this and just spending, whether it's 6 minutes a day, building up to 16 minutes a day, it can really change how you respond to things. It changes how you respond in those situations. And it also changes how you respond to stress. You react to stress in a more balanced way. You don't spin out. You don't go to the worst case scenario automatically. You don't get anxious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it almost sounds like the whole calm code is like, charge it up every day. You can't let it run to, no battery life. You have to, like we said earlier in the interview, is something you have to learn to be consistent at, because you either be consistent in being stressed out or you be consistent in practicing being calm. So
Right.
it's
And
one or the other.
That's right. And over a 6-week period, you will see yourself become more relaxed. Now, depending on where you start, you might want to continue at that 16 minutes a day until you get to the point where you do react in a calm way. You are happier. Your life is not anxious. You're not feeling down anymore. And then what I suggest after that is maybe people do 5 minutes a day. And what honestly, Shemaya, most people just forget because they're feeling so much better. But then I say, if a stressful event comes up, i.e., really anything, a big thing, someone passes away, you lose your job, or you get a new job, or even, good things can be stressful too. Jump back on these tools, because every stressful thought you think is then going to train your mind inadvertently towards stress again.
Yeah. I had someone on my show who said something pretty clever, and they said, wherever the mind goes, the body follows.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, man, that's what this calm code, it kind of illustrates too. If you want to transform your mind, change your whole life, you have to really change what you allow to be deposited in your mind, because you only withdraw what you allow in. It's not like if you want to be happy, you just naturally find happiness. It
Right.
takes time and effort to find happiness, and remember the small things that you kind of take for granted, and express that gratitude. And until you kind of move that muscle, you might lose that muscle over time.
Right. I mean, your thoughts create your reality. It's really true.
Once
So,
again, oh, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, no. So you're exactly right. What you're saying is along the right tracks, and you really get it.
Once again, talking to our guest today, Dr. Annie White. Man, I can't believe time be flying so fast. But before we let you go, you also have on your website, Imagine It, Be It technique. And I say all that to kind of lead to this. So on this page, you kind of break it down. I'm just reading it right now. The Imagine It, Be It technique is a tool from the book, The Calm Code. Quick teaser for the audience. What is this technique, and how is that another tool that could be effective?
Well, what we do with the Imagine It Be It technique is you pick one part of your life at a time that you want to change in. So, for instance, let's say someone wanted a new relationship. So what you would do is you would think about all of the positive emotions and write down all of the positive emotions that you want this relationship to bring you. Because the truth is, that's what you want out of a relationship. You don't want what someone looks like, how intelligent they are, how much money they have. What you really want is how this person is going to make you feel every day. That's the most important thing. And that's what you really want to manifest. And also, everything I tell people to do wires and trains their mind to be calmer and happier. So if we're on these emotions and we're emphasizing these emotions, that's our step one, because it's the most important part. And then you imagine different scenarios where you're with this person and you're using your imagination, you're using visualization, i.e., going on dates or you could even imagine going to the grocery store or going on a bike ride, or they bring you nice flowers, or they do nice things for you. And then you bring up and feel very strongly all of those positive emotions that you want to feel. And I want you to be so real with this that it feels like it's actually happening in that moment. Then you craft some affirmations and you say, thank you that I found the love of my life. Thank you that my partner makes me feel, and you can insert whatever you want in there. And you use those every single day. So what we're doing here is we're using multiple scientifically proven ways to strengthen those calm and happy parts of the mind in tools that you have all the instructions for every day. And, so many people have used visualization to great success. I mean, that's like a good side effect of this is that when you're visualizing this way consistently, and like you were saying earlier, consistency is key, but these things will materialize in your life, and that alone will make you happier every day. But you'll get what you really want. What you really want is someone who makes you feel special, someone who respects you, someone who loves you, someone you feel proud to be with, right? Yeah.
I also heard someone talk about, not to quote Michael Jackson, man in the mirror,
Love Jackson.
but just play on that, phrase. It kind of starts with what you see in the mirror. You got to be real with yourself and say, all right, well, I'm seeing right now ain't looking good. So what can we change about that? And if you don't change, well, then it's hard to be consistent in anything if you don't change. It's like a great athlete or, great doctor like yourself, or just a great, person in general. It starts with who they see in the mirror. Who's that person? And if they're not really in change, well, that's going to be part of the issue as well.
Yeah. And Shemaiah, I have to be honest with you. Before I started taking my own advice and using my techniques, I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. And, that's sort of hard to admit because I had been studying all this stuff for so long. I should have known and been able to manage it, but I didn't, and that's just being honest. And that's what propelled me to make the changes and to dedicate the time like you're talking about. So no one is above any of this. We all go through stuff that's hard. We all get to points where maybe we don't like who's in that mirror, but we have choices, like you said, and we can change it, which is fabulous. We have the power to do that. And it's in our hands, which is, it's empowering and it's great.
It's almost like if something's on the stove too long, then it could become a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing with life. We ignore certain things for too long. It can become a dangerous situation, whether it's, personal, professional. It has to be addressed. And sometimes we don't address things until we're forced to address things. Yeah. But I think having that mindset and people getting that book that you wrote, the Calm Code, can help unlock those better opportunities versus, wait too long, you may regret it.
Yeah. And even if you do wait too long, and even if you really are in a tough spot, it does help, because it's sort of like if you were talking to someone and they said, oh, I really want to make my arm, that bicep muscle in my arm bigger. And you're like, oh, if you lift this heavy thing and you do these different things, it's going to get bigger, right? Science says so. So I just want to give people hope. And I want to, after this pandemic, I want to put something in their hands that makes their life so much better. That's my passion. And I've been there, so I get it.
Once again, talk to our guest, Dr. Annie White. You can get her book on Amazon, The Calm Code, Transform Your Mind, Change Your Life. You can also visit her website, dranniewhite.com. What's the best way people can keep in touch with you? And yes, they know your website, but is there an email that you want?
Sure. My email is support@doctor.anniewhite.com.
Awesome. Once again, talking to Dr. Annie White. I want to say thank you. Take your time and schedule to talk to Art in Focus Radio today.
Thank you. And thank you for your show. I love it.